Hey guys, welcome to another dog vlog. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing the most important thing that you should consider doing for your dog, regardless of your dog's age. You guys ask me this all the time. Rachel, I'm getting a new dog or a new puppy. What should I do? Like, what's the most important thing? And that is what I'm going to share in this video. So let's just jump into it right meow. Before we get into the meat of this video, I have someone extremely important to introduce you to, which will make sense in just a moment. And that someone is Theodore. Some of you may remember Theodore, many of you do not. And Theodore was my foster dog for over a year. And what that means is I took care of him in my home full time as if he was my own dog. He was actually abandoned to the rescue group that I volunteer with here in Austin, Texas, because his family did not want him anymore. Even though he was over a year old and they had had him for almost a year, they didn't want him anymore because they learned that he had a major hip issue that was a genetic defect, and it would require thousands of dollars of surgery, and they didn't want to pay that. So instead they surrendered Theo to the rescue group, who reached out to me and said, hey, we have a special case dog who needs to go into a home that's gonna give him a little bit more routine and structure, but also he's gonna probably have some major medical issues and a major surgery, and we need somebody to help him rehab through that, and it would be a really long process. And so of course I said, absolutely, let me take him in. And it ended up taking him months and months of preparing for the surgery, having the surgery, recovering from the surgery, and then finding him a home that would be willing to upkeep with him and any potential medical needs he would have in the future. And while it's really easy to sit here and feel angry and sadness for Theo and anger at the family for surrendering him because of the medical cost, I wanna make something clear. He had to have a hip replacement surgery, and the starting cost of that is $5,000, not to mention rehab costs, not to mention that both of his hips didn't look great and we didn't know if his other hip would need surgery in the future. So while there is a part of me that's like, why would you give your beautiful sweet boy up? You know, everybody's life is different, and you guys know me, I am not here to judge, but there's a special reason that I wanted to introduce him to you. But before I tell you that reason, I want to introduce you to one more special person, or being I should say, and that is Leo. Now I guarantee most of you watching this video right now do not remember Leo, but Leo was another foster dog that I had in my home that was another special medical case, who was also abandoned to the rescue I volunteered with because his family could not and chose not to pay for the medical needs that he would need. And he came to me as a puppy. And what's interesting about Leo, I just want to give a little sidebar, is he was the inspiration that really catapulted me into starting this YouTube channel. And this YouTube channel really started because I wanted to document the life and story of Leo and his special case and help find him his forever home once I helped get him healthy again. And here we are years later, and now this channel is evolved into what it is today and sharing kind of tips and tricks around being a dog parent. But Leo came to me, and he's most commonly known as the snake bite puppy. And he was bit by a rattlesnake here in Austin, Texas when he was a little puppy. You guys will see pictures of him. It was so sad. And the poor kid was really touch and go there for a moment, but the rescue group swooped in. The family actually took him to the vet to euthanize him. Like, he was literally going to be put down because of this snake bite because they couldn't pay for the medical costs. So the vet actually called the rescue because they knew that we were really involved with helping save dogs. Obviously, that's my motto for this whole channel, save all the damn dogs. And the rescue said, you know what, we're gonna take him in, we'll do a GoFundMe, and we'll do our best to raise funds to care for this dog. We wanna give this puppy a chance, he's such a sweet kid. And so that's what we did. We brought Leo into the rescue, and I fostered him and helped him recover through the snake bite. He had several treatments. He went through a hyperbaric chamber system, and through that he recovered just fine. And just like Theo, I mentioned before, his medical costs were extreme. Leo's medical costs were also extreme. His weren't quite as much as Theo's, but it was still upwards of $2,000–$3,000 after everything was said and done. Before I jump into the most important thing you should do for your dog, I want to introduce you to one last being, I should say, not person, and that being is my chocolate lab, Bentley. You guys know Bentley to be my senior lab. He's 10 and a half. He turns 11 years old this year. Oh my gosh. And We rescued him when he was like 12, 13 weeks old. And interesting story about him, when he was only about 2 or 3 years old, I was obviously much younger. I didn't have as much stable income at the time. He was actually paralyzed by a tick. That's not something I've ever really talked about here, but I still remember the morning I woke up, I was getting ready for work, and I called him. I said, Bentley, come on, let's go outside. And he wouldn't get off the bed. I was like, come on, Bentley, like, let's go. And he would not get off the bed. So I came over to him and I pet him and I was trying to see what was wrong. And he just wouldn't get up. And so I tried to nudge him a little bit, again, wouldn't get up. So eventually I tried to pick him up. And when I tried to get him to stand up, he just would collapse. And guys, I'm telling you, that was probably the most horrific moment of my life, or one of them at least. And so I obviously realized something was wrong. I picked him up, I carried him down the stairs, and I don't know how I did that at the time because he's a heavy boy, he's like almost 60 pounds. And I rushed him to the vet, and at that point I realized he couldn't walk. And all the vets stopped all of their current appointments, and everybody came together, all the vet techs, the veterinarians, and they tried to figure out what was wrong. And honestly, to this day, we still don't know the exact reason. We think maybe he was bit by a rare tick that the medicine he was on at the time didn't fight against. We still just don't know, but they tried everything. And I remember the vet looked at me and he said, Rachel, we don't know what's wrong with your dog, but we know this could be, obviously this is really serious, so we want your permission to try exploratory measures. And at the time, I was scared, but I said, yes, I do anything, whatever it takes to potentially save my dog. Like, he couldn't walk, he was completely paralyzed in his limbs. And so they tried everything. We did scans, they tried different medicines, they tried different therapies, they had consultants on the phone. And to be honest, this is probably bad, but I don't remember exactly what they did to make him walk again. There was some medicine that they gave him to kind of reverse tick-borne illnesses, and it worked. And I'm so thankful for that. And that leads me into the whole reason that I'm making this video, and that is, I don't know that I would have been able to afford everything they had to do for Bentley had I not had pet insurance. If Theo, the first dog I mentioned, if his family had invested in pet insurance with him, his hips would have been covered and they could have kept him. If Leo, the snakebite puppy's family, had pet insurance on him when they first adopted him, they could have easily afforded the treatments for his snakebite. And so for those reasons, I truly and wholeheartedly believe that pet insurance is one of the, if not the most important thing you can do for your pet, because especially in the beginning, it's such a low cost, and my pets are my family. And a lot of people do not realize the importance of pet insurance until it's too late. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Theo. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Leo. And both Theodore and Leo were extremely lucky that there was a rescue group that had an opening for another dog to bring in, and that we had the ability to do GoFundMe, and we had a volunteer like myself to bring them in and actually care for them. But not every dog is that lucky, especially with Bentley. I was young at the time, and had the vet looked at me and said, hey Rachel, like, we want to do exploratory stuff and we don't know what the costs are going to be. If I didn't have pet insurance, because yes, if I wasn't clear, he is still on and he had pet insurance at the time. If I didn't have that, I don't know if I would have been able to afford everything he needed. So to me, pet insurance is so critical because, like I said, you don't know the value of it until it's too late. And maybe today you're financially stable and you're like, it's fine, I'm just gonna put a little bit of money in savings and just save for it. But especially with the way that the world is going right now, none of us, I believe, or most of us, do not know what the future holds. I feel like things are changing at a rapid pace, and things that we never expected would happen are now happening in the world. And so for those reasons, I do believe that pet insurance is an invaluable and incredibly critical and important investment in your dog. And while this video is sponsored by Trupanion Pet Insurance, which is obviously a pet insurance I use, I reached out to them. So they didn't reach out to me and say, hey Rachel, I want you to make a video on pet insurance to try to sell our product. No, that never happened. I actually reached out to them and said, I value what you guys offer so much. I want to share more with my audience. Are you guys willing to kind of work together? Because I think that the collaboration could be life-saving for so many dogs out there. And they were like, absolutely, like, share your story of what you already chose to do, and let's work together. And I'm so grateful for their partnership. And why this is so relevant to my life right now is, let me show you. This little one This little one, if you guys have been following our stories, I have a video linked up here. She is my first pet that I ever adopted after moving out of home, and I graduated college. She is 15 years old, over 15 at this point, and I've had her since she was a little baby kitten. So she is, I mean, Bentley's my world, Finnegan, I mean, they're all my world, but Haven is my heart and soul. Like, she is everything. And earlier this year, she had her first ever, and so far only, I know, she had her first ever seizure. And that was a really scary situation. We've been managing it, and I do a video linked up here talking about that. But unfortunately, and I haven't told you guys this, she's had another medical scare. She had a severe UTI, but at the time we didn't know it was a UTI. And her vet visit, her most recent vet visit, which happened last week, which is what sparked this whole video, cost more than it would have cost to have her on pet insurance her entire 15 years of life, if that's for perspective. And if that doesn't clue you in, no, I don't have pet insurance on her, because I thought, silly me, I don't need pet insurance. She's a cat, she's fine. And for almost all of her entire life, last 14 and a half years, she never really went to the vet other than occasional checkups. I think she had one issue when she was younger, but she really has just been extremely healthy. And I thought about it throughout the years. Every once in a while I'd be like, oh, I have the dogs on pet insurance. Should I have her on pet insurance? And I never added her. And guess what? Not only have her vet visits, just in the past couple months, have exceeded what I would have paid for her in her entire life had I had her on pet insurance, she's gonna likely, especially as she gets older, have more medical issues and medical needs. I have another vet appointment scheduled for her for an ultrasound that she's gonna need. That's $500 just for the ultrasound, not covering the cost to have a radiologist read it, not covering the cost of the vet appointment itself, and not covering the cost of whatever if there's an issue. It's all been out of pocket, and if I had her on pet insurance right now, she'd be covered, and I didn't. So please, if nothing else, learn from me. And it's so funny that I've been such an advocate for pet insurance. I mean, Bentley's been on pet insurance his entire life for over 10 years. And I've had numerous situations of foster dogs coming into my life that were surrendered because their parents couldn't afford the medical issues. It's one of the #1 reasons that dogs are surrendered, because people may adopt their dog one day and they're doing great financially. 2 years later, things happen and they can't afford it when there's a medical concern. I'm a living, breathing billboard of what to do and what not to do. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to cover the cost of whatever this cat needs, because I cannot imagine life without her. But please take my experience to heart. To me, my pets are family. I have insurance on myself, obviously health insurance, and my husband Mikey has it. I have insurance on my car for this apartment that we're renting temporarily. I have renter's insurance. So why would I not insure my family members, AKA my pets? And then I know some of you may say, okay, you know, I'm on the fence of renter's insurance or pet insurance, and but you know, like I got this dog for free, like whatever. Here's the thing. What people don't realize is, and this is according to the ASPCA, this is not something I made up, the average cost of a dog over the lifetime is minimum $10,000 upwards to $20,000. So let's say the average is about $15,000. That's the cost of a car. And so again, if you're gonna insure your car, why not spend the few bucks or even the 20, 30 bucks it may be a month to have pet insurance to insure and protect your pet? Because I'm telling you, you don't want to be in the situation I was just last week, where we had to take her actually to the emergency vet. She was bleeding, she was so much pain, and they called me, and because we had to do the whole socially distant thing, so they had to take her in without me, which was really trying. It was a really tough time. And they called me like, Rachel, so we don't know what's going on. So we need to do blood draws, we need to do ultrasounds, we need to do fluids, there's all these things we need to do. And they gave me a range of costs. And the cheapest it could have been would have been $1,000 up to what we actually spend, which was the max. And that again would have been what pet insurance on her would have cost her entire life. So yes, I do believe pet insurance is the most important thing that you should do for your dog, if at all humanly possible. I get we're all in different situations, and again, I have no judgment for you. I'm just sharing my experience, which is pretty extensive when it comes to pet medical needs. Like I said, Finn is on Trupanion. Now, I want to talk about the most important thing you can buy for your dog, and that video is linked right here. And if you need some potty training or crate training tips, click the video right here. I'll jump over there with you and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you again so much to Trupanion for supporting this video, and I hope you have a beautiful